Thursday, October 5th. Joey didn't come to school today. I wasn't surprised. I know exactly where he was. He was in the office at Lake Windsor Middle School, re-enrolling. It's the right thing for him to do. It's the right place for him to be. I never should have talked Joey into coming to Tangerine. He doesn't fit in here. I should have seen that. Joey's not me. Joey fits in with his family. He fits in with his friends. He fits in with Lake Windsor Downs. That's where he belongs. That's where he is now. And that's all there is to say about it. Right before science class began, I went up to Teresa and handed her 6 pages of research. She seemed pleasantly surprised. I said, "So what's up with Tino?" She said, "Not much," and started to look at my papers. "Does the coach know that he got suspended?" "Yeah, I guess so. Everybody knows." "Is he going to miss tomorrow's game?" "No, he's coming back tomorrow." "Yeah? I heard he got 3 days." Lewis went in and talked to Dr. Johnson. She said that since Tino didn't actually hit anybody, she'd reduce his timeout to 1 day. "Oh, that's cool." Teresa stopped thumbing through my report. She looked me right in the eye, like she never had before. "Yeah, look, Paul Fisher, you gotta understand one thing. You can't come in here and start talking about Lewis any way that you want. Lewis means too much to us." I nodded quickly. Yeah, I understand." "Tino and Victor, they don't play that kind of stuff. I told them last night that they should leave you alone. But you better tell your friend, to keep out of their way." I thought about that. I don't think he goes to school here anymore. And I don't think he counts me as his friend. Not anymore. "Well, I don't know anything about that. I'm just telling you what I'm telling you." She pulled a piece of white paper out of her back pocket. "Here, this is a map to our house. Henry's coming over after practice to meet Lewis. If you want to meet him, you can come too." I stared at the map and at the large black X marking their house. As coolly as I could, I said, "So what about Tino?" "What do you mean?" "He won't be mad if I come?" "No. Why should he?" I shrugged. "You know, the stuff with Joey." "You're not Joey, are you?" "No, but is he mad about getting suspended?" "You're not the one who got him suspended, are you?" I shook my head and said, "No," but I thought to myself, not this time anyway. I went over to talk to Henry D., and we wound up working out a great plan. Henry's brother was going to drive him from Tangerine Middle School to Teresa's house, come back to get him, and then drive over to Lake Windsor Downs to do a job. Henry said that he and his brother would be pleased to drop me off at my door. I called Mum and explained the plan. She sounded doubtful, but she agreed to let me do it. At practice, the coach put me in Tino's position. I played poorly, but nobody seemed to care. It was just temporary. Tino would be back tomorrow. After practice, I followed Henry D. to the parking lot. We walked up to a small blue pickup truck and climbed in. Henry said, "This is Paul. This is my brother, Wayne." Wayne Dilks. I knew him right away. The fireman. The young guy who'd come to our house about the muck fire. He gave me a friendly hi, but I don't think he recognized me. Anyway, he didn't say anything as we drove east towards the Groves, listening to a country music station. Soon we were flying past perfect rows of citrus trees, and the glorious scent was in the air. I saw a large wooden sign that said Thomas Cruise Groves Nursery. Wayne slowed to 5 miles per hour and turned right onto a dirt road. We bumped along past an oblong pond 50 yards across, ringed all around with tall cattails. Behind the pond, on higher ground, was a grove of trees, hundreds of them, tall, all about 10 feet high and 6 feet wide. Water sprinklers rose tall among the green trees like skinny metal weeds. We bumped to the left toward several buildings, a house, a separate garage, a small shed, and another strange-looking building. The house was large, 2 stories high, with old shade trees around it. It appeared to be built of cement blocks covered with a kind of mustard-colored stucco. We rolled in a cloud of dust past the house, pulled up next to the classic green Ford, and climbed out in front of that other building. Wayne said, "I'll see y'all in an hour," and backed out, leaving us standing before one of the strangest structures I've ever seen. It looked like a gigantic tin can that had been cut in half, lengthwise, and then pressed down into the ground. I asked Henry, "What is this thing?" It's a Quonset hut. They had a lot of them left over after World War II. Some of the citrus farmers bought 'em up cheap as war surplus. Yeah? Did you find that out in your research? Yes, I did. Henry knocked on the wooden door of the Quonset hut. I looked up and figured that the door was 6 feet tall and the hut was 12 feet tall at its highest point. At its lowest point, the ends stuck right into the ground. Tino opened the door and said, "Yo, Henry D." Then he turned back inside without acknowledging me. I followed Henry and Tino down to the far end of the Quonset hut, about 20 yards down through the cool, dark, windowless building. The sides, where the metal ceiling curved down to the cement floor, were jammed with wooden crates, sprinkler heads, wheelbarrows, and all kinds of equipment. We joined Teresa and Louis at the rear door. Teresa pointed at us and said to him, "That one's Henry D. That other one's Paul Fisher." Louis smiled. He had large teeth inside a large head. He had a strange shape, too, bony and muscular at the same time. His arms, his legs, his whole body were like thick rope. Louis said, "Good to see you guys." His voice was soft and seemed accented more than Tino or Teresa's. He walked ahead of us, limping as if his left knee would not bend. He led us out of the Quonset hut toward the weather-beaten trees on the hill north of the house. Louis stopped about 5 rows in, pointed around him, and said, "This is a grove. We grow a fruit here called the Cleopatra tangerine, and we sell it to citrus packers and juice companies. Our family has done that for 45 years now." Louis doubled back and we followed. We turned left at the hut and soon came to an open space, as long as a soccer field but square in shape. Here the trees were like babies, only 1.5 feet high, and spaced not much more than 1 foot apart. There must have been 1,000 of them. Louis sat down next to one of the baby trees, so we all copied him. He said, "Look around you. This is a nursery. The purpose of a nursery is not to grow fruit. It is to grow trees. We then sell the trees to fruit growers." Louis placed a long finger at the base of the baby tree. "This part of the tree is called the rootstock. It is the root and trunk of a rough lemon tree. Believe it or not, every type of tree here that we produce here begins its life as a rough lemon tree." His finger rose 6 inches to the knobbly beginning of a branch. "At this spot, we cut a slit into the rough lemon tree, set a new type of bud inside, and close the slit up with tape. Now we have turned the tree into something else, perhaps a Valencia orange tree or a red ruby grapefruit tree. The new bud that we grafted onto the rootstock is called a scion. The word scion means like a child or a descendant of the tree." Louis pointed his arm back to all the tall trees. "Check this out. A scion can be any type of citrus that you want, orange, grapefruit, lemon, lime, and they can all be growing on the same tree at the same time. That means that on one little tree, you could have a branch of white grapefruit, a branch of red kumquats, and a branch of green limes, like some kind of Frankenstein fruit tree, all stitched together." He caressed the trunk of the baby tree. "The rough lemon is totally worthless in the supermarket, and yet there is no more valuable tree out here in this nursery." Louis got to his feet, flushed with feeling. He pointed to the 1,000 baby trees before us. "If you look out here, you'll see that all of these trees are the same. On each, there is only one scion grafted onto a rough lemon rootstock. That scion is a new type of tangerine called the Golden Dawn." Louis stared with us at the field he had created. Then he turned and led us back through the rows of adult trees. He pointed out different types of citrus trees, including some Frankenstein experiments of his own. He answered many questions for our report. All too quickly, we were back at the Quonset hut. Henry D. looked out the door and announced, "Wayne's waiting." I walked up to Louis and offered my hand to shake. He took it in a powerful rope-like grip. I said, "Thank you. I'm really interested in this stuff." He answered, "Then you should come again." I said, "I'd definitely like to." I turned toward Teresa and Tino. "See you guys later." Teresa waved. Tino acted like he didn't hear. I followed Henry D. through the door, then stopped short. There, attached to the back of Wayne's pickup truck, was a short trailer. It had a fat, heavy generator mounted on it, with a large fan and a spray nozzle on either side. I said, "What on earth's that?" Wayne answered cheerfully. It's a sprayer for y'all's mosquitoes. We bumped along with the sprayer behind us all the way to Lake Windsor Downs. As soon as we turned into the entrance, Wayne spotted the blue tents along Joey's street. Look at that now, he said. Y'all are having a regular 10 plagues of Egypt here, aren't you? I said, yeah, 10 and counting. How many houses got termites? It looks like that whole street has them, all along the west side. That's where they buried the citrus trees, he said. This was a grove, you know. Yeah, so I've heard. It was all groves around here. When they cleared this land for houses, they just set fire to all the trees and plowed them under. You see how that whole blue tent street seems to be on a hill? Yeah. That hill's made of dead trees, dead tangerine trees. Termites live in all that wood under the ground, but they got to come up to the surface to get water. That's where your problems start. If the wood in your house is in their way, they start eating through it. I said, you can stop them though, right? You can kill them? You can call the Orcan army or something? Wayne shook his head. You can't stop them. You can put a barrier around your house. That's about it. But you can't stop them from eating wood any more than you can stop that muck fire from burning or them mosquitoes from sucking blood. We were at the house. I said, here it is. I got out and looked at the spraying rig. You guys going to turn this thing on now? Wayne smiled. Yeah, we're going to let her rip. We'll kill some of them skeeters for you anyway. I said, thanks for the ride, Wayne. See you, Henry. Wayne waved. He reached under his seat and handed something to Henry. Then, in the same motion, they both pulled black rubber gas masks on over their faces. They sat there for a minute, looking like a pair of ant-men who had stolen a truck. Then Wayne got out, walked to the back, and pulled the starter cord on the generator. I watched as the rig coughed and sputtered to life. Then I backed away and hurried inside. I dropped my stuff in the alcove and went into the kitchen for a drink. Out of the corner of my eye, I detected two people in motion, and I heard the pumph, pumph, pumph sound. I knew that Eric and Arthur were practicing in the back. Would they stop when they smelled the insecticide? I got a soda and stood at the breakfast bar, waiting to see what they would do. I saw a billowing white cloud enter the backyard, like an angel of death. It came from the right to the left in white waves, and quickly filled up the whole yard. But as I watched the scene, it began to happen again, just like in Houston, just like at the Gray Wall. A feeling came over me, overpowering me, like I had to remember something whether I wanted to or not. I stared hard into the backyard. First I could see Eric and Arthur, then I couldn't see them. Then I could see them, then I couldn't, and I remembered our backyard in Huntsville. Mom and Dad were standing in front of me. Dad was directing Eric to move in a circle around and behind me. Dad was saying, okay, Eric, pretend that Paul is the center of an imaginary clock and that I am standing here at the 6 o'clock position. I want you to stand at the 12 o'clock position right behind him. Good, now move to the 11 o'clock position. Then he said to me, Paul, can you see Eric? I said, no, I can't see him. Okay, Eric, move to 10 o'clock. Paul, can you see him? No, I can't see him. Move to 9 o'clock. I can't see him! I can't see him! Mom broke in. It's okay, honey. It's okay. She said to Dad, there, I told you. The problem is with his peripheral vision. Suddenly I felt the hot breath of a predator on my neck. I screamed in terror. Eric laughed and ran over to Mom and Dad. He'd snuck up on me from behind, from somewhere back around 10 o'clock. Dad snapped at him, Eric, cut that out. Are you here to help us or not? I remember that I started to cry in the middle of that pretend clock, but Mom and Dad did not notice. They were arguing about my eyes or about my glasses. Mom finally said, well, it won't hurt to try, will it? I'm taking him back there tomorrow to see what they can do. And she did. That's when I got my new glasses. That was when I started to see better. From that day on, I could see things that they could not. I could see Eric posing in front of them in the shining light of the football dream. And I could see Eric lurking behind me in the shadows of the clock.